Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Mr. Beard, and today I want to figure out where Gateway is located around the world, right? This island is supposed to be somewhere around the world. Now, it might seem easier than expected, or it might seem harder than expected. I did my research, and I can say a place where it could be located, and it makes sense. So you'll find out in this video. If you want to play a mini game, you can go down in the comments and comment where you think is going to be located. My guess starting this video was it's somewhere in the Caribbean. Now, the thing that will help us pinpoint a location for the island is the animals and the plants. There's a lot of plants and there's a lot of animals found on the island, excluding the dinosaurs. Now, from all the animals you see on this list, only two help us find the location where Gateway might be located. The two animals I'm talking about are the crabs and the turtles. What's my logic behind choosing only these two to find the location? Because anything else, from boars to rabbits to chickens to deers, we find on the island, and it could have easily been brought to the island by Apollo Engineering to do their research on them, right? But crabs and turtles, as we know, we find them on the shores of Gateway, and they come from the ocean. And in my opinion, I don't think Apollo Engineering just put a thing around the entire ocean surrounding the island to block these creatures to come on the island. So my guess is that those crabs and turtles we see on the shores are actually native inhabitants of the area where Gateway is located. They didn't got brought there, they came on their own from their natural habitat. So these two will really help us pinpoint a location. Starting with the sea turtles, I went ahead and looked at a few sea turtles, and I've come to the conclusion that they are loggerhead sea turtles. They look very similar to the ones we have in game. They could have the colors that we have in game, the turtles in game have. So my guess is that they're loggerhead sea turtles. Now, these can be found, as you can see on this image on the screen, in the Atlantic, Pacific and Indian Ocean, basically everywhere around the world. Now, how does that help us? At first, if we get only the sea turtles, is not much of a help, right? They're in the Caribbean, they're in North America, South America, even surrounding Africa, the Mediterranean, even Asia, Australia. So yeah, they're basically everywhere. Now, if we go look at the crabs, which I've looked at images of crabs online to see what species of crabs this could be, and I've come to the conclusion that they are snow crabs. They look very similar to the ones in game. I will compare the one in game with a picture of a snow crab I found, and as you can see, they're very similar. Now, if we look at where in the world we can find these snow crabs, we get this map. They're basically between Russia and the United States, Alaska included, right? Alaska is the principal part of the US here. They go practically from Washington or Oregon, is that the part, up until Alaska, until Russia, and go down to Japan and Korea's, of course. And on the east side of the United States and Canada, we also have a territory there where snow crabs can be located, and around Greenland, but Greenland already gets kicked from this equation because the island has a tropical, subtropical, temperate climate, right? As we can see from around the map. Now, if we remove and put the sea turtle territory together with the crabs territory, we see that there's a few places where they meet, and the most important places where they meet are near Japan and also near the east side of North America. These two places are the most likely to be where Gateway is located. Now, how do we find out which one of these two is the right place for Gateway? That's a simple question, really. It all comes down to the palm trees that are found on Gateway. The palm trees, I will show you a picture on the screen with the map where they are found. The palm trees are found in South Japan, even China, India, the Philippines, Indonesia, that area of the world. Southeast Asia, basically. Now, if we look at the United States and Canada, the east side of them has no palm trees. So in conclusion, what we can draw from this is that Gateway has to be somewhere in Southeast Asia. And my guess is it's just a little south of Japan, where it can be a possibility that it's there. Now, from now on, my guess is within this circle. That's where Gateway is located. How are we gonna approach this video further? We're gonna take each plant in game and see if it makes sense for Gateway to be here. Starting with Nona plant, the climates of this area. The climates of the world, as you can see, are polar and subpolar zones, temperate zones, subtropical zones, and tropical zones. Now, if we look at the first area of East Canada and United States, we see that it's more like a polar, subpolar zone and a temperate zone, a mix of them two. So quite cold for Gateway, if you ask me. If we look at Japan and a little south of Japan, it starts to blend in with a subtropical zone and even the tropical zone, which, you know, as we know, this is the climate Gateway is based on. At least in my opinion, we see all the warm temperatures, the weather, everything, and it just starts to make a little more sense that Gateway would be located there. Now, the crabs, the sea turtles, the palm trees, and the climate all suggest that Gateway is in this circle where I mentioned it is. Now, we'll move on and start with bananas. Bananas in the world, which we also can find on Gateway. As you can see on this map, one of the biggest producers of bananas is China and India, ranking top. And then Brazil comes after them, and Indonesia and Philippines. Now, if you put Gateway where I said in this area, you can see it's very easy for them to cultivate bananas and also get them from very nearby if they need more. They don't have to sail across the globe to get more. They can easily access resources very close to home, right? If we look at the United States, it doesn't really have a lot of them. It might cultivate some of them, like 500,000 tons, but it doesn't come near China and India with 25 million tons of bananas each. Now, bananas make sense next to coconuts. Coconuts, as we see on this map I'm showing you, can be found in abundance in India, in Southeast Asia again, and also a little bit in South America, Central Africa, and East Florida zone, United States. Now, we eliminated the United States from the idea that Gateway is there, so I won't mention them again. What I will do is mention South America, even though I think Gateway is in Southeast Asia. Why? I'll tell you in a little bit. Moving on to horned melons. These horned melons are only found in Africa, so the only way you can grow them, well, because they're in Africa, you might say they're accustomed to tropical and subtropical climates, which Gateway might have, right? So they could bring them from Africa to cultivate them on the island. Another fact to keep in mind is what Dondi said in Discord, and Dondi said the following: Apollo Engineering's roots are in botany. That's where they start. What is botany? Botany is a scientific study of plant life. Now, if Apollo Engineering started off studying plants, it's pretty easy to say they came with a solution to grow horned melons on Gateway, right? And it will also make sense for them to be in Southeast Asia, one of the places in the world you'll find a lot of things that, you know, plant related. Now, moving on to jackfruits. Jackfruits, as you can see on this map, are produced and grown in Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. Another place close to Gateway where they can easily get them and also grow them because the climate is appropriate. Moving on to mangoes. Mangoes, in my opinion, I thought they're coming from Madagascar because I've seen the penguins of Madagascar, alright? But I was completely wrong. They come from here. One of the highest mango producing countries in 2014 was, and you guessed it, India with 15 million mangoes. China on the second place with 4 million mangoes. Thailand in the third place and Indonesia on the fourth place. Now, that's interesting. And Philippines is also on this list, 800,000 mangoes produced. Why is this important? Because if the island is close to Japan on the south, it can easily get mangoes and everything I mentioned from China, India, and the Philippines, and even Indonesia, because they're very close. And we know Apollo Engineering has a big port. Like if we saw on Spyro, that port was big. If we look on ILV3, they also had a very big port. So you know they're doing trade with countries to have such a big port. Why? I'll get to it in later, speaking about also South America and the relations with Apollo. Moving on to Marigold, as you can see from this map, we find Marigold in India and also Japan, but we don't really find them a lot in Southeast Asia. More of them are grown in the United States and Canada and Europe. So that might be a problem, but because Japan has them, India grows them, some territories in China grow them, I figure Gateway, if it's located somewhere south of Japan, it can grow Marigold. And as we know, we find Marigold on the island, so this also checks out, even though there's more of them in the United States and Europe than in Asia. Moving on to mountain ash, as we can see here, it's more produced and grown in the United States of America. A little bit is grown in Japan. Again, it helps us, and maybe it's possible to grow them in Japan, but a lot of them grow in the United States, so here it doesn't really help us with anything. But again, Apollo Engineering is known for botany, so they definitely came with an idea how to plant them. Variegated Orange is next, and this is a text I got. Oranges were possibly created long ago as a hybrid between two other citrus fruits, pomelo and tangerine. Distribution throughout tropical and subtropical countries. It does make sense with gateways, so they can grow on gateway. The main areas of the world production are Brazil, the United States and Mexico, Spain, Italy, Egypt, and India, China, and Australia. So variegated oranges grow all over the world. They're produced all over the world, easily gotten from everywhere, and they can also grow on gateway. So this checks out if gateway is in Southeast Asia. Basically everything, almost everything I've said until now makes sense very strongly that gateway is in Southeast Asia, and also makes a little sense. Like again, marigold and mountain ash, we've seen them in Japan. If it's close to Japan, it's there. Now, moving on to red currant, again, if we look at this map, Japan has them, India has them, and also the United States and Europe have them in abundance. So the fact that Japan has them and can be grown there makes me think that gateway is still able to grow red currants. And yeah, it's possible. Now again, why can't gateway be in North America? Because palm trees, and palm trees where snow crabs exist, they don't exist except in Southeast Asia. It all ties together. Now, next is agave. The top producer of agave is Mexico, and currently agave plants can be found in multiple countries including South Africa, Spain, Italy, Egypt, China, Japan, and Australia. Again, China and Japan, being close to home, can easily provide agave to the island and also make it be able to be grown on the island, because gateway, if it's located where I'm saying, it can also grow them, considering Japan and China can grow them. Chanterelle mushrooms. Under the foliage of the misty west coast rainforests in Vancouver, Canada, lies the golden chanterelle mushroom. The origin of this fungus has been historically documented in both Chinese and African history, but many cultures claim to have used the chanterelle for centuries. So these again can be found everywhere around the world, almost, and they come from Chinese and African history. Again, very close to home, China. Dulse plant. Globally, it can be found along sheltered and moderately exposed Atlantic coasts from Arctic Russia to Portugal. It thrives in North America, from Arctic Canada to New Jersey on the Atlantic coast, and from Alaska to California on the Pacific coast. Dulse is also commonly found and harvested in Japan and Korea. Now, Japan and Korea, again, it's commonly found and harvested there. Can it grow on gateway if it's a little bit south of Japan? Of course it can. So Again, Dulse plant makes sense to be on the island and also be found next to Gateway in the countries that surround it. Fiddleheads. In Canada, it occurs in parts of all provinces and territories, most abundantly in New Brunswick, southern Quebec and southern Ontario, often in flood plains or near rivers or streams. It also occurs in the United States, Japan, China, Siberia, west of Scandinavia, Belgium, France, and parts of the Alps. Again, we see Japan and China have fiddleheads. Again, they can be grown there, can easily be accessed by Gateway and Apollo Engineering from its neighbors, and can be grown on the island. Fireweed. Now, fireweed, as we can see on this map, is located in Southeast Asia, a little bit of Japan, so it does make sense to be on the island, and it can grow on the island and also can be easily gotten from neighbors. Radish flower. This is a text from the internet. The Eastern Mediterranean region, China and Middle Asia are considered to be the origin of radish. China is the center of origin because wild radish still exists in China. The ancient Greeks prized radishes so much that they made small replicas of them in gold. So China is the center of origin. Again, China, big influence on Gateway when it comes to resources. Staghorn Sumac. Now this is the sumac we find in game, and I think very much that it's the Staghorn Sumac. As we can see from this map, it's found in China, Korea, and also in the United States. Again, easily found in Korea and China, easily gotten on the island to be grown there. Sunchoke. The Jerusalem artichoke, also called sunroot, sunchoke, wild sunflower, topinambur or earth apple, is a species of sunflower native to Central North America. It is cultivated widely across the temperate zone for its tuber, which is used as a root vegetable. Again, cultivated in temperate zones, so it can grow in Gateway. Now, it's native to Central North America, but they also just need to get it on the island and grow it there, considering it can grow on temperate zones. Our island is on subtropical to temperate areas, and depending on the time of the year, it can definitely be grown on Gateway. Trillium. Now, Trillium, as you can see on this map, grows only in North America and a little bit of Europe, so it does not grow in Southeast Asia, sadly. Now, again, I don't know how they can cultivate it. This is one that it's harder to cultivate on Gateway, but I'm guessing they just created something to help them cultivate it there, considering Gateway Apollo Engineering is based on botany. Cashew. The domesticated cashew tree is native to the New World but commercially cultivated mainly in Brazil and India. The seeds, rich in oil and distinctly flavor, are commonly used in South and Southeast Asian cuisine and are a characteristic ingredient of numerous chicken and vegetarian dishes of southern India. Again, India and Southeast Asia cuisine has cashew, easily gotten on Gateway, easily accessible, and it can grow there considering the climate. Brazil nuts. Surprisingly, the main producer of Brazil nuts is not its name-giving country, but Bolivia. Brazil is only on second place. Ivory Coast and Peru complete the list of the only 4 Brazil nut producing countries. So these countries are the only one who can grow it, but considering South America is more of a subtropical to temperate areas, I think Apollo Engineering did create and manage to grow Brazil nuts on the island in Southeast Asia. Now, again, with Brazil and South America, I will explain what I mean in a little bit. Papaya. Domesticated in Mesoamerica within modern-day southern Mexico and Central America. It is grown in several countries and regions with a tropical climate. In 2020, India produced 42% of the world's supply of papayas. So papayas, again, India, and it's in that region, it can easily be accessible and it can easily be grown on Gateway because of the climate. Pumpkins. As we can see from this map, China and India have one of the largest produced pumpkins in the world. China with 5 million and India with 3.5 million. We also have Thailand with 200,000, Korea with 300,000, and Japan with 200,000. Pumpkins, again, it surrounds the island if it's where I'm saying it is, so it can easily be grown on Gateway and accessible from their neighbors. Russula mushrooms, fruit bodies grow singly, scattered or in groups in sphagnum moss near bogs and in conifers and mixed forests. The fungus occasionally fruits on humus or on very rotten wood. The mushroom is known from North Africa, Asia and Europe and can be locally very common. So it's a very common thing to find Russula mushrooms in Asia, North Africa and Europe, and it can easily be grown on Gateway and accessible. Wild potato. Wild species are found from southwestern United States to southern Chile, with most species concentrated in Peru and Bolivia. They grow in diverse soils and climates, from the dry desert along the Peruvian coast to the Andean valleys up to altitudes of 4,200 meters above the sea level. Now, wild potatoes, again, they're not really southeastern Asia, but considering how potatoes work and they can grow in other places, they can easily be gotten from South America on Gateway and meet the climate for them and the soil type for them. Now, this is basically all the plants in the game. What I want to talk about with Gateway being in Southeast Asia and how does it tie to South America so much and China and India, and why I think it's very possible for them to be there. Now, depending on this game takes place, right? Some say it's in the Cold War era, some say it's in the future era, now like 2170, I think, year. Now, what I want to point attention to is the relationship between the BRICS countries. BRICS is a organization formed with India, China, Russia, Brazil and South Africa. Now, all these countries makes sense surrounding Gateway. All the plants we find on Gateway can be accessible from these countries. Russia, China, India, South Africa and Brazil. These, again, very big influence on the island. The position Gateway is located in Southeast Asia, a little bit south of Japan, makes for trading very, very good. Southwest of it would be the South China Sea, which is one of the most busy places of trade in the world. A lot of ships pass this sea every single day, so it's a good hub for Gateway. In this position, they could easily get access to India, China, Japan, Korea, Australia. And even if they go east with the ship, they have the Pacific and they can easily cross it towards the United States and South America, which makes for a strategic position of this island, considering maybe they want to sell the dinosaurs to different countries after they're done. Very easily accessible to everywhere in the world. This is basically what I want to talk about in this video. Thank you very much for watching. This is the end. I want to know what you guys think about the video. What are your opinions on where Gateway is located? And yeah, thank you guys for watching. It was me, Mr. Beard, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.